A stream of water flows quietly along its path. Near the stream, you see a flock of sheep that appears to have everything it could need. As you admire this beautiful scene, there is movement that catches your eye. Far up on the hillside, you can make out one sheep that has its own idea about where it wants to be on this beautiful afternoon. It's far up in the rocks, out on a vigorous hike. It presses on energetically. Not far behind that sheep, you notice a second movement. The shepherd emerges from the tree line. His intention is clear. That sheep is in the wrong place, doing its own thing. And the good shepherd wants to bring it back to the place of quiet waters. In the fall of 2005, we reached a height in our ministry. We just started the Metro ministry in Bucharest, reaching out not only the students living in the dorms, but also interacting with them at faculties and other locations. I had the largest team I've ever worked with, and a great number of volunteer students. Lots of hours were spent in planning, trying to find new ways to become more efficient in reaching out the 365,000 college students studying in Bucharest. I was in a leadership position and also training a new staff. There were so many opportunities and great testimonies to report in my prayer letters. But in my life, things were not looking so bright. I was coming after 4 years of intense work without almost any pause or vacation. I usually stayed in the dorm until 11:30 p.m. The first signs of exhaustion were showing up. I couldn't sleep. I weighed 47 kilograms. And I started to have serious health problems. One of those days, my team leader called me to a discussion, and he listed 10 things that in his view I was not doing well. Things that he thought were negatively influencing the team. I was completely unprepared for that. My world crashed. I went from enjoying the top of the mountain to being plunged into confusion, wrestling with the enormous message that hit hard and hit deep. Encouraging the team was one of my highest motivations. For the next 2 days, I struggled, trying to unpack the list of 10 things and sort out what was fact and what was subjective evaluation. But out of the pile of emotions, a new question surfaced. The question was, why? Why that conflict had such a power to impact me so much? The Lord started to speak to my heart. Things that could hardly be noticed before in my frantic rhythm of life now became visible. A need for being appreciated. A search for significance in what I was doing, including my leadership position. Jesus started to nourish my soul in a new way. It was the time for me to listen, and listen carefully. But there was no way to listen while I was speeding, so I needed to slow down. In the next 2 weeks, I made a decision. There are few decisions in my life that appear so clear to me as that one. I knew exactly what I needed to do, but it was just hard, very hard. I asked my team leader if I could step out of my role as an associate team leader. He agreed. So I stepped back. And during that year, while I was pursuing my other responsibilities in the ministry, I've learned to rejoice in the presence of the Lord. I cried and worshipped. I laughed and gave thanks. I learned to listen better. I redefined who I am, whose I am, and what's my purpose in life. Resting in God was not static. But while I was getting out of the grip of urgency, I could see new opportunities to serve, and I enjoyed being at work with my father. Resting in God became also a place of healing. While the doctors could not give any encouraging diagnosis, the Lord healed me. Here are the two things that I've learned during that time. First, even if I was teaching others about God's unconditional love, I did not experience it. My deep belief was that I was loved according to my accomplishments. During that time, I've learned that my value comes from who I am as a child of God, unconditionally loved. Secondly, I gained the freedom to say yes or no without the fear that I will disappoint somebody. Quite a few years have passed since I walked through that difficult and challenging experience. Looking back, I can see God's goodness and loving kindness. He had the perfect plan, the right timing, and the best solution. You know, I can't say I'm the person who seeks rest. Working hard and taking new opportunities describes me much better. But I've learned to value resting in Jesus. In this new season of my life, with two young children, I realized that even if resting in God looks different, it still remains the deepest need of my soul. If I were to sum up what I learned during that time, it is this. God leads us into His rest because He knows what is best. I close with this thought. I know how it is like to be a sheep that is overzealous about changing the world. I know how it is like to think that I have more urgent things to do than to spend time by quiet waters. I know how it is like to act as if I know better than the Good Shepherd. And you know what I noticed while I played and hiked up in the rocks, pursuing my very important goals? I noticed that there were some other sheep doing the same thing. I wonder if you and I might met before, up there in the rocks. Thank you.